Welcome to the Elijah Rising podcast. Elijah Rising is an organization empowering women recovering from sexual exploitation. This episode is going to help you become more aware about the issue of sex trafficking and inspire you to take action.
Hey, you guys, welcome back to the Elijah Rising podcast. I'm your host, John LaChapelle, and I have the privilege of being joined by two incredible guests. The first, our case manager at Elijah Rising, Miss Jennifer Merrick. Welcome.
Thank you for having me, John. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. And our special guest, this is Zach Lambert. He's the director of Mercy Goods. Zach, welcome to the Elijah Rising podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to sit and chat with y'all.
Awesome, man. Well, since this is your first time on the podcast, why don't you just share with your listeners, our listeners, who you are, what is Mercy Goods? Just give us that whole backstory of how you guys started.
Awesome. Will do. My name is Zach Lambert. Moved to the Houston area a little over 5 years ago with the purpose of helping plant a new church in the Richmond area. Mercy Goods, we came up with this idea and this concept when we lived in the Austin area. The idea was that we would help men become men again. Take these men coming out of a drug treatment center and help them find employment, but also help them figure out how they can be dads again, how they can be husbands again, how they can get back into that normalcy of life. And so God gave us this vision while we lived in that area. And so then we moved here to help start a church, and God reignited that and said, okay, Mercy Goods, you're going to walk that out here in the Houston area. And so right now, what we have been doing up until today is bringing high school kids in. Ones that the school district has identified as at risk or potential dropping out, and we want to be able to provide them with hard job skills. So we have a wood shop and we have a metal shop, and so we're teaching these students how to design and build furniture. So we're taking these kids and figuring out, okay, where do you want to go? How do you want to get here? Where do you want to, what's your plans and goals and what's keeping you? And then, okay, let's walk there together. Let's do life. Let's have those conversations we need to have. And also sometimes I get to have those, okay, that was a poor choice you just made. And what can we do better next time to make sure we're getting there and all that? So
that's amazing, man. What has partnership with Elijah Rising looked like up until this point with Mercy Goods?
Yeah, I think so. When I first learned about Elijah Rising, I was like, okay, I want to come alongside them in some way, and all that. So I was okay. We have a store. Let's buy candles. So I'm like, let me support Elijah Rising by buying the candles that we can sell in our store. When I first learned about Elijah Rising, it's whenever the location was off 59 near all those import car places, and I set a meeting up saying, okay, I'm going to go meet them. I just want to see what they do. I want to walk through this Museum of Modern Day Slavery and see what that's like. And so as I was getting the address and pulling it up on my phone, I saw a Facebook post or an Instagram post or someone from Elijah Rising that said, we just had a John still visit the museum looking for services. And at first, so I was pulling up into the parking lot when I saw that, and so I'm like, oh, well, shoot. I had a little freak out moment because I'll be like, I don't want them to think that I'm here for these services, a guy walking up to the door. So at first I was like, oh my gosh, what? I don't want them to, then immediately something inside of me, God, the Holy Spirit said, okay, don't be freaking out about that. You should be angry about this. Angry that sin has taken over in this person's life. And then God threw something else at me. I was like, okay, now it gave me more of a desire and a passion to walk alongside Elijah Rising. It's like, okay, how can we're here on mission? How can we support and come alongside? So, but yeah, we love the candles. We sell them in our store. We have people in Fort Bend County that will come to our store at Mercy Goods to buy the candles and all that. So,
that's incredible.
Yeah.
What I love even about what you shared, the Elijah Rising mandate, really, we see it in Malachi 4, 5, and 6, that the spirit of Elijah would turn the hearts of the fathers to the children to the fathers. And just to hear how you take in some of these young men who coming from fatherless homes or coming from unstructured homes, and just to hear that discipleship, I think that even more emphasizes this really sweet partnership that the Lord has brought together.
Yeah, when my little backstory is like I was that church kid. I grew up in the church, did everything with the church, mission trips, soup kitchens, all that kind of stuff. So growing up, I found my identity in doing the right thing, doing what's good. Oh, that's a good thing. That's what I'm going to be known for and all that. Titus 3:5. He saved me not because of the righteous things we have done, but because of his mercy.
Yes.
So God really got a hold of me like that. So yeah, you're doing all these good things, but that's not why I saved you. So, but I saved you because of my mercy. So that's where that mercy part of Mercy Goods comes in. That because God's mercy is so huge and so massive for us that. That's why he saves us. That's why he loves us. That's why we brought us into that. And so with Mercy Goods, we want to teach that to our students. I mean, because a lot of our students in our situation or people in America today is like they want wrath and they want vengeance and all that kind of stuff. And God's saying, okay, be merciful. Because I am merciful.
Absolutely.
And all that. So yeah.
That's so special, man. Thank you. Well, I mean, the ministry, the work that you're doing, it's incredible, but it's not totally the reason why we brought you on today. We actually have a special announcement, and I would love for Jennifer to announce that for us.
I am so excited to announce that Elijah Rising will be collaborating with Zach and Mercy Goods to take over the making and selling of all of our handmade goods with the social enterprise goods that empower stores. So, yay! So excited about that.
Yes.
You know, many of our listeners may know this, but if they don't, you know, Social Enterprise was the brainchild of our former Social Enterprise Director, Sam Hernandez, when Elijah Rising began making candles in our kitchen with survivors about 4 or 5 years ago. And from there, it's just grown. You know, it went from being an online store to having a storefront. We have expanded from candles to soaps and lip balm and everything else. And so it's really just been a labor of love for our organization. And what we've seen is that it's brought an element of economic empowerment to the women in our program, and just them to be able to make these quality goods that, like you say, Fort Bend County and other places within Houston have grown to love and specially request our candles, right? And so this has just been like a really special project for us. But, you know, over the past several months, we've been in much prayer. And the Lord has just been leading us to be more focused on those 4 pillars, you know, on really the main aspects of our mission, which are prayer, awareness, intervention, and restoration. And so for that restoration piece with the economic empowerment, we just feel like the Lord wants us to outsource that and to come alongside these business partners that are like-minded, that are trusted in our community, wanting to do good. Already some of these are donors or supporters of us, just like Mercy Goods, and just giving them an outlet to give back to our women. And just we're just excited to see what this turns into, because they'll be able to expand their networks and their communities and just grow in a way that just having the connection to Elijah Rising wouldn't have done for them. And so we're super ecstatic to partner with you guys and to see what is to come of this, and just to see it grow.
And whenever we first started talking about this, I got excited because when God gave us the vision for Mercy Goods, he also gave us that word goods because it's so generic. And so like we had a desire to see people become whole, see people become healed. And it started out with students right now. But as God has opened up new mission opportunities, new service opportunities in our community, we want to be able to take that word goods and find something that somebody can make and that can be a business owner or be empowered and be able to be creative and make something. So we knew that there will be multiple demographics that we're serving, and that in those different demographics, like, you know, we can come in alongside y'all with the ladies coming out of these situations, and they can do Mercy candles and Elijah Rising candles. We knew there were there was something inside. God was like, okay, this is going to happen at some point. Be prepared and all that. So
that's so special. And I just want to highlight too, it's a beautiful thing for a nonprofit to go, hey, we've been doing this, and it's worked really well. It has fulfilled the assignment of what we feel like God gave us it for.
Absolutely.
And now we get to transition that to someone who's doing it full force and can do it with excellence, because we have to focus on some things that God is saying, hey, strengthen what remains here and let this grow. So one of y'all want to speak to that? Just this, it's almost this John 17, like, be one, like, who's doing it well, let's let them do it, and let's do what we do well.
Just unity in the body of Christ. And when we think about the body and all of its parts, like each person has its function, each business, each organization has its function. Right. And if we're walking in our purpose and doing that well, why not link up with someone who's doing their purpose well and still accomplish the same goal? And so I really feel like that's what we're doing here with this collaboration. So.
Yeah, and Mercy Goods, we fall underneath another nonprofit called Attack Poverty. So whenever we first moved here, we saw there was opportunities to serve and all that, and I saw this other nonprofit called named Attack Poverty that was already serving, and part of the things that God really spoke to me about is like for people to come out of poverty, they need jobs, and so this is just another thing that's fallen in line. And it's like we as believers we tend to like. We see something that needs to be done, and we think that we have to do it whenever God has empowered somebody else. And so we end up losing point of the mission, I think, whenever we try to do everything ourselves. And so what I see here now, this is a beautiful picture of God's people coming together, and then I'm not an expertise in sex trafficking. I don't know. I want to learn and do what we can to help stop and bring awareness and all that, but y'all are. And so it's beautiful to be able to come alongside and say, you know what, I will support you in this mission. I will come alongside you. I will do those things so that you can speak life into these ladies. Yeah.
I love that. That is so special. It's really breaking down some of those taboo nuances of nonprofit world and what it means to have a vision and stick to that vision. No, we get to be pliable and moldable and really follow the Lord and not a structure. So I just really appreciate you both highlighting that. Zach, just from your perspective, what does this collaboration mean for Mercy Goods? Partnering with Elijah Rising and just seeing a little bit of an expanse happen with candles and different things. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, with this, growth. I see growth. I see a lot of times there are some people that don't like growth. Growth sometimes is not comfortable, but growth is beautiful.
Yes.
I see this as, like we look at it, think about an orange. We can count the seeds inside of an orange, but I can't count the oranges that are inside of that orange because all those seeds have the potential to do something and be oranges and all that kind of stuff. So I see here as like an opportunity for us to grow and multiply. I see opportunities for life. I see opportunities for healing and restoration. So the more stories and people that I can walk alongside and be that glimpse and view of someone being healed through Jesus, healed emotionally, physically, spiritually, see families become families again. For me, it's just like I see potential for we can talk about seeking the welfare and prosperity, and that word prosperity sometimes has that taboo word, and it has been taken out of context and used out of context. But prosperity, I see the ladies that we're able to walk alongside you with. Get into some normalcy, and then maybe go get a full-time job somewhere where they are being prosperous and growing, and then finding ways that they can serve and tithe and give back and volunteer at different things. So with us being underneath a nonprofit, Attack Poverty, they have multiple locations throughout Houston. And so if we see these ladies come in this area where they've gone through the process of healing and restoration, and then they can come to a point where you're like, you know what? I can serve and I can love somebody else in this situation. They can serve that situation in a way that I can't because I have not been there. But so I see opportunities for ministry and life and salvation and just ways that we can touch souls that we would never be able to do by myself.
Absolutely.
And so,
And that's so special. And we have this conversation all the time when it comes to the sex trafficking demographic. What can we offer them that is going to supplement or exceed the income that they're making now? I think that's kind of the trade-off. People don't want to leave the life because they leave some of the comforts or they leave some of the securities that their abuser is giving them. And so to have these opportunities where they can actually learn a trade and learn how to be valuable and even bring something to the table that they might not have known was within them to develop is so key. And I think it goes back, again, just to that fathering, mothering piece. We have this opportunity to nurture, equip, and mature a demographic that never had that opportunity. And so can you speak to that just from from a case manager's perspective, like you encounter women on a daily basis and the situations that they're in.
Oh, I think that's great. A lot of it is also just life skills, like people willing to give of their time, of their resources to mentor and to show these life skills and things that we take for granted every day, you know, and just, for example, just knowing how to budget and to do those things and realize that I can do that and I might not make the same amount of money, but I also have more security now. I also have safety now. I also have a community, a village of support and knowledge that I didn't have before, where I was totally dependent on other people before. Now I'm more independent, even though it came at maybe a cost of less income, but it's a balance, you know, and just explaining that to them to where they can appreciate what they're gaining over what they've lost.
Yeah, that's really, really good. Yeah, and for those who have sewed into the social enterprise at Elijah Rising, those who have been with us on the journey, and with that being said, we want to give a shout out to Sam Hernandez. This was her baby that she birthed. It has been such a gift to the women that we've served and continue to serve, opportunities to develop and grow in skill set. What's the development plan for this collaboration? How will
great.
this partnership still impact the women that we serve?
I think that's a great question. So the handing over the social enterprise goods that empower production of the products is one piece of what this collaboration looks like. But the other part is called the Workforce Development Program that we are partnering not just with Mercy Goods, but with other trusted business partners in the Houston area to provide not only a job, but also a development plan. So what are those skills that they should leave their first job with? You know, what are, so not just making candles, but, you know, do they have the customer service skills? Do they know how to do the presentations or to be able to speak in public and different things of that nature? So we've developed this development plan that each of these different business partners will have, and they will walk alongside the women that are employed by them. They'll give them a fair wage. There will be opportunities for them to have a mentor and just really learn the things, not just specific to that job, but just in the workplace in corporate America, just knowing how is it going to be different for me, and having that partnership and mentorship by someone to ask the questions that they may not feel comfortable asking in a regular workplace. And so this is just kind of an exciting project to me, because we'll not just have a Mercy Goods, which I'm ecstatic about, but we'll also have other companies that do other things. So having restaurants and floral shops and even customer service companies that can teach them all manner of different skills, and they can find, you know, what's a good fit for me, and not just feel like they're forced to do the only thing that we were able to provide, you know. And so I'm just excited about what's to come, and, you know, just a shameless plug for anyone out there who wants to partner with us. We are open and still taking business partners for this workforce development program, so that we can work with as many companies within the Houston area to provide jobs for the women in our restoration program. So reach out to Elijah Rising. You can ask for the case manager or anyone else. We will get you involved.
That's awesome, Jennifer.
I'm having a lot of conversations with other employers about being intentional with their hiring.
Yes.
And so, like, they may be a for-profit business. And so I'm, like, using words like for-purpose business. Like, how can you have to hire someone.
Yes.
And so let's be intentional with that. Let's put our quote-unquote money where our mouth is. We say we want to build up this community. We say we want our neighbors to do well. I'm like, well, let's hire from our neighborhood. Let's hire from people that grew up and that could benefit from having a livable wage and all that. So using, from even just talking about this on the down low up until now with some other employers and talking to them, like, hey, there's opportunity for this that we're about to step into. They're like, okay, when they're ready, let me know. I'll hire them. So there's some good. It's bringing that awareness of, like, as an employer, as a baker, you can go in there and fight these injustices as a baker.
I love that.
Yeah. It's just empowering and motivating and putting them on mission as a baker that they can fight these things.
Yes, and especially because one of the largest issues with the women of this population finding long-term employment is they may have a criminal history. They may have something in their backstory that if these partners know, hey, they've been through a restoration program, they've been through our curriculum, they've shown that they're willing to do the work, why not give them a job? Why not, like you say, put your money where your mouth is and show that this is a way that you can give back?
Right.
Yeah. Guys, that is huge. And I think so many of our listeners are encouraged and even stirred by an opportunity to actually create a new beginning for someone who, in society's eyes, is just thrown out. You know, oh, they have this record, it's still there, it's not been expunged. So, you know, we really don't want that in our business or our organization. But to see that there are people who are extracting the gold and really finding the beauty in their stories and helping them find a new beginning is so, so huge. And so thank you both. Zach, I'd love for you to cast some vision for our listeners. Where is Mercy Goods headed? If you could speak into the next 5 years, the next 10 years, that I think many people probably don't know about you, but you're on the school board, you're impacting communities. Like, you're not just building your kingdom, you are actually looking for regional transformation.
Yeah.
How can people get involved and sow into what you're doing?
I will start first by saying there's this thought that I've been meditating on a lot lately, and it's not my fault, but it is my responsibility. So, like, there are some things that happen in our community. We've had floods, after flood, after flood. Then we had this thing called Harvey come alongside, not our fault. Then we had COVID come along, not our fault. But how will we respond to that? And so, with all those things, through Mercy Goods, through me being on school board, through just trying to be a community leader, I want to help motivate our community to say there are these things in people's lives that are not my fault and it's not their fault. But as a believer, as someone who wants to seek the welfare of our community, I'm going to take on that ownership and that responsibility to make sure these people are healthy, happy, and whole. So 5-10 years from now, I would love to see a happy, healthy, and whole community. I would love to see a neighborhood that takes ownership and responsibility of elementary school, where we know that poverty and reading levels go right in hand with each other. So if a kid doesn't learn to read by 3rd grade, their chances of ending up in poverty drastically increase, which means if they end up in poverty, then sex trafficking and prostitution and all that plays into a role. So what I like to see happy and healthy elementary schools so that those students can come and give and learn. But that means we have volunteers in our community serving and loving. For Mercy Goods, I would love to see that word goods, that different demographics of pockets of people serving and loving and helping people figure out how to be creative, how they can make something, how they can earn a living. I also like to say people are either going to make a living or take a living. And so we want to see that prosperity of people making a living and earning income, but also contributing to that community development part of that. I could keep going on, but there's a lot I see, and I see God is leading us through it, and I also see me trying to get out of His way, let Him work too. So
no, you even talking is stirring me up. And so, is there any ways that people listening that they can come be a part as a volunteer, or they're like, hey, I want to sow financially into what you're doing? Can you just give us some channels or some opportunities to jump on board? Yeah,
absolutely. For volunteers, and this being nonprofit with Elijah Rising, we just want, and I think God desires people to be present and just showing up and doing life, having like a Paul Timothy type of relationship with these people. Where like, hey, this is how you balance a checkbook, but then this is also how you fill out a job application. This is how you sew on a button. So just all these things these tasks that we take for granted, somebody doesn't know, and that's an opportunity for people to come up, show up, and serve it to love. So for volunteers, whether it's through Elijah Rising or Mercy Goods, come be present with our participants, I think. Our workshop and our store is located in Richmond, Texas. So we're at 501 Morton Street in Richmond. Website is mercygoods.co. Attack Poverty's website is attackpoverty.org. And there's tons of opportunities to get involved and to financially donate and support. And so there are some people that are like, hey, I can't volunteer, or I'm out of town or out of state, but I love what all these ministries are doing together. Get that donated out, but on all of our websites.
Come on. So we've got the restorative care arm that is seeing practical, holistic rehabilitation for these women, getting therapy, getting counseling, going through education programs. And then we have this other arm of equipping them in job skills, training them, fathering them, seeing opportunities that are even beyond. I love that you're like, goods is so subjective. It can mean anything, you know. What do you have in you that you want to pioneer? We want to be a resource for you. And so I think this collaboration has more potential than maybe we see at this grassroots space. But Zach, we just really appreciate you coming onto the podcast and being with us to pioneer in our region this collaborative work. And we're believing God for beyond what we've put our little hands to. So Jennifer, thank you for coming on as well. And thank you guys for listening. We hope that you feel stirred to sow in whatever that looks like to you. That's not just monetary, to sow into the collaborative work of capital C Church, the people of God unifying together to tackle something that's way bigger than us. And so I'm reminded of Micah 6:8, where he said, Micah the prophet is saying, he has shown you, oh man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And so we just want to leave you with that verse that he's shown us. And so it's now on us to respond to him. So thank you guys for joining us on the Elijah Rising podcast. Until next time.
Thank you for joining us today for this episode. If you were inspired by this content today, please share, rate, and leave a review. Also, please consider making a donation at elijahrising.org/donate. Your support helps us continue the vital mission to combat sex trafficking. Until next time.